Almost 10% of people in the entire world work for nonprofit organizations. Today on MH Reports, we talk about people and organizations giving back. No lawyers, no collateral, no paperwork, but lots of trust. I talked to Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus about the bank he created to support poor women in Bangladesh.
The women don't matter to anybody. So here we are addressing them, then giving them the money. They take the money, us start earning income. It changes the whole relationship within the family itself.
Then, why help? I talked to two young people who are involved in managing nonprofit organizations about what drives them to give back, and what it's like to help hundreds of people on the other side of the world. MH Reports starts now. Hey there everyone, I'm Marcus Harun. Most banks around the world are worried about making a profit, so they only loan money to people who have enough cash to pay them back. But Nobel Prize winner Muhammad Yunus did the opposite. He created the Grameen Bank to loan to the poor, to loan to minorities, to loan to the women. In his home country of Bangladesh, Yunus felt like women were overlooked, so he provided the opportunity for them to start their own business, support their families, and become more independent. In 1976, Muhammad Yunus decided to turn the banking industry upside down with the creation of the Grameen Bank.
And people ask me, how did you design the bank? What did you do to make it work? I said, well, it was very simple for me to make this bank, because whenever I needed a rule or a procedure, I just look at the conventional banks, how they do it. Once I learn how they do it, I just do the opposite. And it works. Conventional banks go to the rich people to lend them money. The more money you have, the more money they will give. So I reverse that. I go to people who don't have money. If you have nothing, I give the highest priority. So I reverse that whole idea. Conventional bank asks for collateral. Before they give you money, they want to see how much wealth you have. They assess you, and on the basis of that, they will lend you money. I said, no collateral is needed because you don't have anything. So we dismiss the whole idea of collateral. It's a trust-based banking. We trust the people, people trust us, we lend money, they pay us back. We have no problem with getting the money back. And because we don't have collateral, we don't have any legal documents. Since we don't have any legal documents between bank and the client, we don't need lawyers. So we are a lawyer-free bank. If you look at any bank, they're filled with lawyers, papers, texts of them. So that's another reverse. Conventional banks are owned by rich people, usually men. We reverse that. Grameen Bank is owned by the poor people, and most of them are women. 97% of the owners of Grameen Bank are poor women because they own the bank. They should buy the shares. So we reverse that too. And another thing, we said people should not go to the bank. Bank should go to the people. So we have now 8.5 million borrowers in Grameen Bank. And the bank goes to all of them at their doorstep to do the business with them. They don't have to come to the bank. So in every way, I'm saying that we reverse the system.
His bank now has its own system with over 2,500 branches. The idea behind the bank is to give microloans, as little as $27 to the less fortunate so they could start their own business. And Yunus decided to focus on helping women.
The women are the most neglected part of the society. If you go to the lower end of the income level, the poor people, they literally don't exist. The women don't matter to anybody. So here we are addressing them, then giving them the money. They take the money, us start earning income. It changes the whole relationship within the family itself. Suddenly she becomes an important person in the family. She participates in decision making. If you look at Bangladesh, a country with 160 million people, most dramatic thing that you can see in Bangladesh happen in the last 20 years is the women empowerment, because of the way it has gone and given people, particularly focusing on women, and change their status in the family, in the society. And they have money in the bank. Not only they borrow money, which people see a bank as a lending organization, it's also an organization which promotes savings among the poor women. Today, right now, they're nearly $1 billion worth of savings they have in their bank accounts. So they are not insignificant kind of people anymore. They're very significant people.
The bank has impacted over 8 million women, and it's very effective too. 97% of loans are repaid. In addition to microloans, Yunus created another worldwide trend.
And at the same time, another idea which is catching up is the idea of social business. Business to solve problems rather than make money for oneself. So these are social business. I define it by saying it's a non-dividend company to solve human problems. So now all the problems that you see, each problem can be, around each problem, we can design a business to solve that problem so that it becomes self-sustaining. Usually we try to address them by giving charity, donations and so on, and it helps people. But the problem with charity is the money goes, it does the work, it doesn't come back. So you have only one time use of the money. If you can transform it as a business idea, as a social business idea, then the money goes, it does the work and comes back. So you can send it back again to do the same thing again.
All his work, including his social businesses, his books, and the Grameen Bank, have been geared towards his vision of total eradication of poverty from the world. And that's why he was honored with the Nobel Prize in 2006. And you've had a lot of accomplishments that many people are looking towards and that they're very proud of. But I want to ask you, what are you most proud of that you've been able to accomplish?
Well, I'm very happy that what I've done in Bangladesh applies to everywhere else in the same way that we have done in Bangladesh. So I'm very happy about that. And also this idea of social business, I think now young people can look forward that I can do something on my own. I don't have to wait for the government to do anything. I'll continue to press the government to do the right thing. At the same time, I can show that things can be done in a different way and the government and everybody else can learn from that. So I can use my creative power. So that, I think, is more important thing to make people imagine things for future. And I always insist that young people should imagine what kind of life, what kind of world they would like to live in the future. And if you imagine that, it will happen. If you don't imagine, it will never happen.
You can see the full interview with Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus at Harun.me. Now on to our roundtable discussion. We have two people to introduce you to. They are in organizations that are making differences all around the world, starting with Jean Leon Iragina, who's in Jackson, Mississippi. He's the CEO of Isario Foundation, which improves reading and writing skills in Rwanda. We also have Liz Braden from Indianapolis, Indiana. She is a millennial motivator for Building Tomorrow, which helps build schools in Uganda. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. Now, what we would like to do first is I'm going to play a clip from my interview, and then I want you guys to respond to it. So take a look. If you were to give a message to the students who are looking up to you, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say young people are a completely different generation today. Unlike the previous generation of young people, this generation is much more powerful than they were because of the technology in their hand. This technology was never available to any generation in history. Today's generation has access to information, access to each other. They have a network, global network of their own and so on. And they're much more faster in their response pattern because they can make decisions very quickly because of the technology that they have. So my question to young people is, you now become aware that you are more powerful than ever before that happened in history. And then you ask yourself, what use you are going to make of this power that you have?
So Liz, as you heard, Muhammad Yunus says that you have the power to change the world. What are you doing with your life to be able to help change the world?
Yeah, so I work for Building Tomorrow, which is a social profit organization that empowers young people to create social change. And we work with young people, specifically college students in the U.S., and encourage them to raise funds to build primary schools in Uganda. A lot of what Muhammad Yunus says is what I say to my students, is that every dollar can make a difference, and they're in a very unique position where they have 1,000 peers around them at college that if they can get everybody on board, they could raise a lot of money and make a really big impact. So.
And how about you, Jean? What are you doing to make a difference?
Yeah, I founded the Isario Foundation which is a non-profit organization that is improving reading and writing skills in Rwanda. We saw there was a problem in Rwandan literacy, and we wanted to be part of the change as young people, young Rwandans who live in the United States.
And one thing he brought up there was technology. And because we have technology nowadays, that's a difference than when he was trying to make a difference years ago. How are you using technology in your organization, Gene, to be able to help others?
We really give a high importance on technology. We have already started to see if we can, instead of shipping printed books, can start using the Kindles. Last year, we were able to start the first electronic library in Rwanda, made by Amazon Kindles. The library was started in the Northern Province, and it's been a success. And we're looking forward to expand the program throughout the whole country.
Can you talk a little bit about the progress, Gene, that you've made so far with the organization? Now, 2 years in since you started it, what have you been able to do so far?
Yeah, so far we have been able to impact 32,000 students, which are in schools in Rwanda. We've been able to ship more than 16,000 books to Rwanda and donate them to schools. As I said, we started the first electronic library in Rwanda. We've trained teachers and young writers a couple of times with our partners from the United States. And we've been able to conduct a lot of reading and writing campaigns and competitions.
Now, Liz, I want to ask you, you said I think 12 schools were built so far?
Yes, we have 12 that are open, and then we just finished construction on our 13th academy that will open for classes in February. So we have another 6 that are under construction, and our hope is to have 60 by 2016.
Wow, what a huge undertaking that you and your group are trying to do. Can you talk about what you've done so far? You launched 7 years ago. What has the organization been able to accomplish with those 12 schools?
So each school is supported by a community, and we have seen a lot of development in those communities, and using the school as kind of a catalyst for other projects in the communities, and really just the very basic, success of putting a child in a classroom that's safe and providing the access to learning and access to education is a huge accomplishment in and of itself. This year we're launching more and more quality of education initiatives to make sure that the quality of education in our schools is the highest possible. But even just the simple task of being able to sign your name can make a big difference in the child's lives, as they can then open a bank account or progress economically that way.
So you are educating the very young generation there, but you think that it's having a broader effect on the community in general?
Yes, definitely. A lot of the communities where we work, all of our communities have to decide to donate the land and the labor, and a lot of the landowners themselves have said, you know, I've never been to primary school, I never learned how to read and write, but this is something that I know will benefit the community and make a really big impact on the children. So we've seen the community really kind of recognize the impact of education and the value of education, and that alone kind of starts the journey for the students that, you know, once I leave primary school, I'll have support from my family and from other community members to go on to secondary school and hopefully university. So even that basic understanding of the value of education and what it can do for the community is a big deal.
Next question is for you, Gene. Now, you're helping people in Rwanda, which you're originally from Rwanda, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm from Rwanda.
And you're working with other students here in the U.S. How do you think, how have they been affected and feeling working with people who they're probably not familiar with, that are in a very far place that I'm sure not a lot of people have been to Rwanda? So how's your team been working on the organization?
I was very humbled by the feedback I got from my school, from my my teachers, my advisors, and my fellow students. Um, from Rwanda, I remember once visiting a school in the northern province of Rwanda, and we had donated, 500 books to the school like 6 months before. And then I was talking to the director of the school, visiting the library, just checking if the books are in the library, and checking if the students have access to the books. And he said one thing that really, really touched me, and I was very humbled by that. He said, since you donated books to us, now the library is always open. And it's very hard for students to get the books because the books are always in the hands of the students reading them. So I immediately saw, that change that just happened in only 6 months.
And Liz, now for anyone who is thinking about either joining a nonprofit or maybe even has an idea to help others either in their community or in another community, what advice would you have for them?
I always tell students, especially if you're still in college and you have some support, to really just be bold and kind of go for it. I have a lot of students that say, hey, I have this idea, but I'm going to wait till I graduate. And, if it's what you're passionate about, go for it now. There's no harm in failing. There's no harm in really just putting yourself out there and recognizing that this is the time to do it.
What an impact both of you have made. Thanks very much for your time today, and thanks for your efforts that you've made. Jean Leon Iragina from Isario Foundation and Liz Braden from the Millennial Motivator for Building Tomorrow. Thanks very much for your time, and you can see the full conversation that we had with both of them at harun.me. Join us next month for the fascinating story of Fernando Bermudez. He was thrown into prison for almost 20 years for a crime that he did not commit. Police said he killed someone, but he said he wasn't even at the location of the murder. No one would believe him for years until he got released from jail, and now he shares his story on our next episode where we discuss the criminal justice system in America. Comment below or follow me on Facebook or Twitter if you have any topics to include on our next roundtable discussion. I'm Marcus Harun, and have a great day, everyone.